Hello students, welcome to Veranda IAS. From the topic of current affairs in science and technology, in this session we are going to learn internet through low Earth orbit, or we can say LEO satellites. The learning objectives of this particular session will be to explain internet through low Earth orbit satellite, examine internet through low Earth orbit satellite in news, then further we will discuss the impacts in Asia Pacific region, and then we will list down the competitors of the low Earth orbit technology. Further, we will outline the challenges in the LEO technology. Now, let's first begin by introducing ourselves to internet through low Earth orbit satellites. Now, LEO satellites orbit Earth at a distance of around 500 to 2000 kilometers, whereas fixed orbit satellites orbit at a distance of 36,000 kilometers. So, there is a what you can say, significant space between the distance at which the low Earth orbit satellites are there and the distance at which the fixed orbit satellites are there. So, there is a significant difference. So, further, now that can also justify that to what location these satellites are located. So, you must remember that low Earth orbit satellites are those satellites which are located in this region, particularly 500 to 2000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Now, latency, or the time it takes for data to be sent and received, is affected by the distance. Yes, obviously, we all know speed is proportional to the distance. Okay, if the speed is inversely proportional to the distance, if distance is large, then the speed and distance and time, we all know that calculations. So overall, if the distance is increased, that speed will increase, or speed will decrease, whatever the reasons may be. So latency is defined basically or dependent on the distance. Distance in terms like if we have to send a signal from one place to another place, then what will be the thing, that the distance will decide the time. So if the distance is more, the time will be more, right? So over here, the latency basically means the time required to send the data from one place to another. Now, low Earth orbit satellites move at a speed of around 27,000 kilometers per hour and complete a full circle of planet every 90 to 120 minutes. So, see in a day how many, like almost 90 to 120 minutes, even if we say 120 minutes, that 2 hours, that means that in a day these satellites can revolve around the Earth 12 times. So, requiring a higher investment. Okay, so that is the internet through. Now these satellites, the internet whatever we are getting right now, mostly the broadbands and all those things, majority of the times we are getting it from the satellites also, and majority of the times it is we are getting to fiber optic broadbands and all those things also. Now what was the news regarding this internet through low Earth orbit? Now low Earth orbit satellite on 4th June 2021, an estimate of 1250 satellites will be launched annually this decade. So that is what the report said, that around in a year 1250 satellites specifically to provide the internet through low Earth orbit will be launched in this decade, with 70% of them for the commercial purpose, right? Further, the power balance. Now, the important point is the power balance is moving from countries to corporations. This is important. Earlier, we will come to that point when there was a period when this space was the adventure of the governments and not of the companies or the corporations. But now it has become an adventure for the corporations rather than those of the countries, because private investment is playing a significant role. Even government agencies have turned to private enterprises such as the US Department of Defense, which has a contract with the SpaceX. We know SpaceX of Elon Musk, which is a very significant player in the space market right now, to purchase the satellites. Moving ahead. Now, what will be the impact of this on the Asia Pacific region? Now, expanding LEO constellations and increasingly affordable rocket launches benefit other space technology and services. So, see, right now, even if you are saying, even if you take the example of India, like internet services are not equally distributed. Like in one place in the urban areas, you may get 4G or even 5G whenever it will be launched, or the speeds are increasingly high. But if you go to the rural areas or the remote places, the internet, you may even not have the mobile connections, or mobile networks will not be available. So in those cases, these low Earth orbit satellites or the internet through these low Earth orbit satellites will be beneficial. Further, LEO link has the potential to strengthen the resilience of network infrastructure in regions prone to natural disasters. Because see, these the internet that you are providing is from the satellite. So whatever happens on the surface of the Earth will not in any way impact the what you can say the internet's infrastructure as such. So low Earth orbit technology, which is expected to account for roughly 40% of the market by 2030 due to its higher service quality and wider coverage in areas where terrestrial connection infrastructure is lacking, is expected to drive the majority of the growth. Is because the limitations that happen because the infrastructure is on the surface of the earth. There may be disasters, so in disasters the infrastructure will be damaged, and because of that the service will be damaged. But the kind of infrastructure damage will not happen when it is from the space. So when the internet is provided through the space, then the issue is altogether different. So higher service qualities and wider reach network, more people will be connected. More people connected means more market. Like it is simply, if you have internet cheaper, you will have the OTT platforms. If internet is costly, who will take the OTT subscription to the OTT platforms? So in a way, at the same time, if internet is reaching only to the urban areas, then only urban people will be having access to the OTT platforms. If as you increase the number of people having internet, cheaper internet, the number of people or your market or the subsidiary services that are there, they can be increased. Nowadays we are having online service food deliveries only in the urban areas. So after few days it may even happen at villages also, like people in village demanding the tea on Swiggy. That is possible technically, but then again internet awareness and all those things will play a significant role. But the important point is providing the infrastructure for that. If the infrastructure is there, then it can be done. If infrastructure is not there, then the things cannot be done. But this specifically, and Asia Pacific, what we are speaking about, Asian countries, because of their terrains, geographical locations, the economic factors and all those things, this technology may become very significant in the times to come in these areas. Further, now, use cases from the government that contribute to the effective implementation of national transformation projects like Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 or Abu Dhabi's economic vision of 2030. So now there also these kind of things are, these countries obviously they have a lot of money, so they are ready to invest, and then again in those countries also remotest pass the access can be provided. In terms of technology, low Earth orbit can help firms digitize and leverage the Internet of Things, particularly in oil and gas industry. Specifically, that's why the countries like Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates, they are more interested into these technologies, because creating a physical infrastructure on the ground and getting the internet basically from the low Earth orbits is altogether different. Okay, and more reliable. This technology is more reliable than the infrastructure which is there on the ground. So, and obviously Internet of Things is the future, and Internet of Things will find the applications in every possible domain of our lives, or the manufacturing or the services. It may be individual life, or it may be even be the bigger corporations, how they perform the works. So in oil and gas agents industries also there will be a potential. So in those cases, the low Earth orbit can play a significant role. Now let's move on and see the competitors of low Earth orbit technologies. Now these are the big private corporators or corporations in the world. The first one is OneWeb. Then we have Starlink, the biggest one, and it is backed by the SpaceX of the Elon Musk, which always makes a lot of noise and a lot of news you will be hearing. Is too active on the social media, always supporting that things. Then further we have Amazon's Jeff Bezos also interested in the space technologies. Then we have Google and the Facebook. They have already started. They have started, like in earlier times there was a Project Loom which was asked by the UPSC, where through the balloons, like balloons which will be released in the atmosphere, and through that balloons the internet will be provided to the remotest part. The point to understand over here is that as we provide the internet access to the people, the market increases, and with the market increases, their businesses also does increases. So these are the biggest corporators, or they are individual competitors also to provide the low Earth orbit technology or internet technology, we can see. Now, what are the challenges in the LEO technology? Now, see, during the Sputnik and Apollo mission eras, the government dominated and regulated the space-related activity. Yes, it was at that time, like, see, at that time, the market was totally different. The market was of consumer goods. The consumer goods, so United States and these countries, they invested, or the corporations, private corporations, they specifically invested into the consumer production of the consumer goods. But now, as the time has changed, there is even a heavier competition in these goods, consumer goods and all those things. So what they have shifted to? They have shifted to space. So space-related activities has become a new kind of what you can say craze. It has created a new kind of craze amongst the private players. In the current period, however, the power balance has shifted away from government towards the private companies. So private companies, just like what we saw, SpaceX and all those things, because they are providing cheaper services from the government and they are more reliable than the government agencies. And in earlier cases, this era was also considered too risky by the corporations. Nowadays, it is not considered that risky because it is now an established science. If you do the things correctly, you will get the results. So in those days, it was more or like experimental. So corporations will not invest in the risky businesses, but now, as it is established, they are ready to invest into it. There are other logistic challenges involved in launching thousands of satellites into space. Satellites can occasionally be seen in the night sky, causing astronomers difficulties since they reflect sunlight back to Earth, causing streaks in images. So there are certain technical difficulties, but they will overcome in the times to come. Then LEO satellites can interfere with the frequency of those above them, a criticism that has been leveled at Starlink satellites in the past. Like low Earth orbit, and with the number of satellites that will be launched in a decade, so that is like also creating the space debris. So with all those space infrastructure, obviously it's like a traffic jam in the space. In the times to come, there can be a traffic jam for the signals to be sent from here to the space and to be receiving back. So again, that has been the acquisition with the Starlink. So that is what we can say the challenges of the LEO technology. Now to summarize what we have learned internet through low Earth orbit satellites, then internet through low Earth orbit satellite in the news. We saw what the news was, and then further we will study the impacts in Asia Pacific region, and then competitors of low Earth orbit technology, and finally we studied the challenges in the low Earth orbit or technology. So with that, I hope you have understood whatever we have discussed in this particular session. That's it for this session. See you in another one. Thank you.